Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We're so excited to have our friend joining us once again, Joey Gallardo, joining us here live today from Houston, Texas. How's it going?
Oh, it's hot and humid.
How
Very
hot?
and
It's
humid.
90 degrees in New York. We get a heat index today.
Oh my goodness. No, we're up above 100. I think it was like 106 and then now today is 108. So it's
Wow. Yeah, you're used to it. We're not. So JSG Biocleanse Services, please tell us a little about what you do.
yes, we are a mold remediation company. We handle properties that have gone through water loss damages that have superseded being dried out properly. And unfortunately, then they end up growing fungus.
Oh, interesting. But you're here to help solve the problem.
Right. Yes, I got my crew with me. I got my daughter.
Hello, good to see you again. You did great last week.
Thank you.
Good to see you. So what are you guys up to? What projects are we going to work on this week together?
We are doing in Houston, this particular property are houses that are utilized in the format of managed by a company that is running them like apartment units, but they're actually townhomes, they're houses. So we are going through and just got done. In fact, we just got done about an hour, 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Doing a final clean.
Nice. Wow. Oh my goodness. And in this heat, how do you work? Are some of these places you're working inside super hot?
Oh, with containment, I mean, you're dropping at
Your
least a
daughter's
gallon of
shaking.
water.
How do you survive? Oh, she's hysterical.
Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of hydration.
Oh my goodness. Wait, and back to school season has arrived, right?
Well, she just graduated, so we homeschool. So that's a good thing. So then my son, he's also with us. He went out and stepped out to go get some water.
Oh my goodness. Well, what did you guys have in mind for today? What did you want to address for us in regards to the work that you're doing that could help so many people?
Well, we wanted to talk about how you can alleviate, and we're not suggesting that these are do-it-yourself projects. We're suggesting that, under the pretense of cleaning, there are steps that you must take. And that's all we wanted to do is go by, a rundown of all the steps that would be necessary to get past a clearance or to make sure that your home is mold-free.
Okay, great. Let's do it. How do we do it? Where do we start?
Well, the first things that we were going to talk about is you got to go through your project and make sure that you're using what is called a HEPA vacuum, high effective particulate air apparatus. These vacuums are special. They're not your typical, vacuums that you can buy anywhere. They range between $600 to $800, just to tell you the price range. So you can see the significance. It has to do with the filtration of the air. And what you do is you go through and you have to vacuum. Now we're talking about projects that are already, and I'm going to, for some reason, I don't know how to spin my camera around, but I'm going to turn it around.
Sure, go for it.
And show you a picture here. So I don't know if you can see that.
No, what is it?
Okay.
Oh, there
sorry,
you go. I can see it inside the wall. I see the pipes. I can see it.
Okay, so that is already how it should look at the end. I just want to give you a glimpse of what a final product would look like. So if you got that image in your head, we have to set up containment like I've always told you guys. The stage that I wanted to talk about is we've already demoed, which you can see the walls are cut. Mm-hmm. And then on that aspect, we have to vacuum all those fine particles that are, whether they were there prior to us or us cutting out the wall, all those fine particles that are in the air, we want to use the HEPA vacuum. Let me back up. You're already putting the air clearance through a machine called an air filtration device. And these are running throughout the project. But the cleaning is a vacuum as well with the same filtration system. And we're vacuuming all those little fine particles up. the next stage. You go through and you want to, as you can remember the image I just gave you, all that exposed wood, you're going to wire brush it or sand it down. We're talking a microscopic, sanding, just to get the abrasion of the mold that has penetrated and sat inside the wood. So you want to clean that off, sand it down, vacuum that up again, and then you go back and you wash off everything with an remember those solutions I showed you last week?
Mm-hmm.
You want to give a hard brush. The way we do it, we use a hard brush and brush everything down to the ground from after sanding, after vacuuming, and then it's an antimicrobial solution. So that way you kill off any kind of spores that may be still stuck on the material.
Okay.
Then you vacuum again. Because once again, you never know how many particles you're pushing down, and anything that comes out suspect, you'd want to just vacuum it because it's about taking it away. It's not about smearing it. It's not about leaving it there. It's not about wiping back and forth like Daniel's son, wipe on, wipe off. You got to get it off the property.
Okay.
So that's the third vacuuming that you do. Then back to that picture I just showed you, you go back and you set it for 24 hours. Now, gravity has a funny way of putting things in the air and bringing them back down. So you want to give yourself about 24 hours to do another vacuuming the next day you walk in. And like I tell my kids, you walk into containment and you vacuum. Let's say that room happens to be, which that was an HVAC closet. And the back side of that, the picture you just saw, was the restroom. So it was it was kind of like a rectangle, and I'll get the picture back in your head. The wall behind it was the HVAC, which is the unit that air conditions that is a particular townhome. Water was dropping, and in that cavity, the adjacent room, the other adjacent room, the front and the back, which you saw the picture from the backside of, which is facing the restroom, where we took off the vanity, we took off the sinks, got it down to the studs. That whole area had to be treated and cleaned the exact same process, room by room, area by area. And once you get it to the point, once again, you vacuum for the fourth time.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go ahead and then you can put what is a special. Now, because I'm under special protocols, I have to actually read the protocol and verify if they allow us to put that white encapsulant. Some inspectors, which remember they're called mold assessor consultants, they don't, it's kind of a catch-22. They don't want to have that encapsulant paint prior to them seeing pictures of you cleaning it, because unfortunately there are some people out there that cut corners, as I can tell you how many times I just vacuumed, and they put the encapsulant on, which hides all the funny stuff, right? And there's no notification or way of knowing that they actually cleaned it as thoroughly as we like to. So they don't tend to want to put that encapsulant paint on there until they give you permission.
Okay.
Once you give permission, then you can put it. And it's not, I know this is the main thing I wanted to talk about. So many people go to Home Depot and buy products such as Kills, Kills. You can find it at your paint department in most, like Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. That has got a great marketing scheme because people believe that it kills mold and it blocks. It's not meant for mold jobs. That product actually does you worse than not putting it on, because that type of paint is a primer. And what primers do, it's non-permeable. So let's just say, God forbid, you didn't do your job right, and you put that kind of Kills on top. It doesn't let the material breathe, number one. So one, you've just trapped behind the stud anything that you should have got out if you didn't do your job right. And that can come out through the paint again because it's non-permeable. Remember, it's not going to let moisture breathe. Number two, it'll also saturate the area if you didn't dry it out. So you got a double whammy if you didn't do your job right. Now, there are special paints like the one that I just showed you that come with three factors. Number one, it's EPA registered. Number two, it is permeable.
Okay.
And number three, it has an antimicrobial solution on there, a fungal side. And I think if I recall mentioning a couple months ago, the bacterial side, fungal side, do you want to put that on? So anything that would possibly come around would die off as soon as it touches the surface of that.
Got it.
So those are the most important things to remember. So if you ever get yourself involved with a contractor, you can always ask them, hey, can I see the safety data sheets?
Yeah.
And that'll give you a heads up on what kind of product they're using. Once again, if they're under protocol, it would be registered under the protocol's clearance section saying that the MAC, which is the mold assessor consultant, allows you or is giving you permission or is recommending what type, because there are different types. There's clear, it looks like varnish, and you put it on and you're like, wow, it dries and you're like, wow, is it even there? Or the white one, which a lot of people tend to use because there's a clear distinction that you've applied it.
Got it. And let's remind everyone, I don't think we even established your website and contact information. Go ahead. What is it?
Yes, website, the W's, JSGBiocleanseservices.com, email, jsgbiocleanse@gmail.com, and of course the number 512-661-4754.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, let's continue to talk more about the mold remediation and the work that you do. And by the way, I know you're based out of Texas, but you also work where?
Well, I traveled a lot, so I work just about anywhere in the nation. I am
Mhm.
licensed and certified in Florida, which I know a lot of people are running and scrambling because it's that season, and unfortunately, one of the hurricanes already hit. So I give my my salute and prayers to all the associates and people that are out there grinding and helping people in this time of need.
Now, has there ever been a situation where you have to call in more help? I mean, tell me some of the serious things. I know you've did a lot of hurricane, was it Hurricane Katrina? I mean, there's sometimes a lot more to be done just with your company, right? That was like a serious case. There's been quite a few of those.
Yeah, it's all relevant to the size. Like, for example, the house that we just got out of, and I got, once again, it was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rooms affected, different spots throughout the house. So it was the kitchen, and we had to put up containment and barrier. Then the second containment was the hallway. The third containment was the 2 bathrooms, and then the fourth was a bedroom and master bedroom. That being said, I generally bring in a general labor. I get them certified. I put them through the 4-hour course, educating them on rules that OSHA would want them to work proper attire, PPE, which is protective equipment such as their masks. And if you remember the video I showed you last week, their masks, their their suits, their eye lenses, their gloves. Second is also teaching them what solutions they should and should not use. And then third is a scope. Excuse me, something in my throat.
It's okay. Happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Take a time.
My daughter, once again, thank you, comes to the rescue.
She comes to the rescue. She's full service.
So, I mean, once again, yes, that particular job that we just got out of, which was in Channelview. I know it probably sounds, a small town, but it's the outskirts of Houston. We ended up having about 4 different people come in and assist us. I got a warehouse that's going to come up next week, and we're probably going to get 8 people. And it's all relevant towards the scope of work. I mean, if I need to get the job done quicker, obviously I up the scale. When I was on a project management side, we were running projects from a national team, I should say. God, I was running jobs that would have 60 plus people on site. So it just depends on, that was a tornado. I remember that that was the most people I ever had to work was almost 80 people. And so it goes into, once again, having a proper plan, making sure that you got everyone associated to understanding what their responsibilities are. There was a team that was vacuuming. There was a team that was demoing. There was a team that was just picking up trash. There was a team that was painting. There was a team that was wiping down solution. And then I also had my final clean team that, were special to look upon details. There are very, very few people. And unfortunately, not trying to sound male chauvinistic, females are better paying attention to detail. And it's just that they tend to look at things that are significant versus the guy's like, okay, I cleaned it. It's like, yeah, but did you get this corner? Did you get that corner? Did you clean in between the shades right there? It's just unfortunate. Guys are like, well, I cleaned it already. It's like, yeah, but if you don't get all this little spots that I'm kind of pointing at the curtain behind me, if you don't get all those little spots, it's kind of be relevant that you just said you wiped it down, because all those little spots can be holding spores and traps and particulates. And unfortunately, when you pass a clearance, and finally everything that we do comes to the MAC, which I just told you, I just recently passed my course. Once I get out of Houston, I'll take the state exam. But they come out with little discs, and these little discs, they vacuum up air for 5 minutes, and throughout the area that you're working, it could be this whole, obviously I'm sitting in the hotel room right now. It could be this whole room that's under containment. Right now, this would be 20 by 10 by 10, cubic square. All that air can be affected. And like I said, if the guy says, "Oh, I did clean it, Joey, but you didn't clean these little stripes right here," they can fail your test. And it's got to be. And I always tell my wife when I get to the house, and she says, "Oh, you got to clean." I was like, "Babe, the vacuums, everything I'm using has to be laboratory. We're being tested under laboratory clearance. It's not just pine saw clean."
It's so true. Yeah, I think girls were more detail oriented. I'm going to say that for sure.
Absolutely. That's why I got my daughter.
Yes. Yay. Oh, and what brought you into this business? And could you share with that?
Sure. It was by mere mistake. Opportunity came knocking, and I was out. I just got done doing environmental science on as a scientific environmental scientist on gas pipeline constructions through Colorado and New Mexico. We moved to Austin, and somebody offered me a temporary job. So I was working at the University of Texas in Austin, a sorority house, and the labor company was asking me to put up containment, which we showed you last week, putting up the plastic and everything. And they left me alone, and I ended up knocking out a whole sorority house, which was 4 stories all by myself. The owner came in from it was a company called Serpro. The owner came in and said, "Hey, well, who showed you all this?" I was like, well, the guy just told me, set up critical barriers. And he just gave me an example, and I took off and did it on my own. Well, I mean, obviously, and I forgot to mention my previous experience being a chemical, nuclear, biological warfare NCO for the Army taught me a couple things in that kind of area of decontamination and setting up decons and chambers and so forth. So it's kind of like Mickey Mouse for me, but I knocked it out. The guy was impressed, and the rest is history. He asked me to be a part of his team, and he allowed me to grow and get more certifications. And as time went on, I grew my level of experience and level of education and got more certifications. And here I am now, started in 2015. So in 2021, started my own business.
Awesome. Got to be proud of that. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I wish I had that entrepreneurial brain. I don't, but clearly you're good at what you do. And where do you say some of the biggest challenges in your field are? Clearly you're facing them head on, but what are some that maybe something that was a little more difficult to figure out? Has there ever been a time where, wow?
Yeah. Well, the environment is one. I mean, we're dealing with it today. One of the best things that my daughter and I were contemplating, we're like, should we do this at the apartment complex? Because we're going to go to the second final clean. And she's like, no, let's do it in the comfort of the room, because, I mean, we're dripping water. So you just cannot contemplate environment inside of containment. You can't control those variables, because you can't have the air circulating. So you can't work under air conditioner scenarios. And second, you just can't control the humidity levels. I mean, down here in South Texas, The humidity is over 65% just outside. Inside containment, we're looking at 65 plus. You just got to be careful. Got to take breaks. You got to make sure that you're hydrated. That's one scenario. Another scenario could be when you open up a wall. Nobody, at least as far as I know, nobody can see through walls. And all of a sudden, the Mac says, "Okay, I want you to cut from here to here." And you're like, "All right." So you do that, and all of a sudden, and that's why we're going to even finish the second apartment complex, because we already finished it. Johanna and I did it in 2 hours, and we told the management, "Hey, we're done," but behind the wall, going in the opposite direction of where the Mac was wanting us to work, we found growth behind the cupboards. So that means that they had to take out the vanity, take out the sinks, and then we're going to go right now, as soon as we're done with this podcast, the Zoom meeting here, we're going to go and demo some more wall. And you just never know. You assume, that the Mac has some idea of where gravity and water and mold like to grow. But like I told the homeowner of that picture I just showed you, her biggest concern was, well, it's wet, isn't it? I was like, no, it's dry.
Yeah.
But the mold, if you remember the cut, it went almost 4 feet up. And she was like, well, I don't understand why is it so much? Is it wet? I was like, no, it's dry already. But the analogy I gave her was, and I know this sounds strange, but Jill, if you and I were to have a kid, and the baby's 2 years old, and you and I decide, and we live on the high rise, and you and I decide, hey, let's go out for dinner. We're going to leave the baby alone on the couch. God only knows what the child's going to do.
Yeah.
The child could fall off the couch. The child could open up a window to the balcony. The child can play with knives. Nobody knows what the baby's going to do. It's kind of like mold. There's no way to predict what it's going to do. Once it's evolved and started to get a ground hold of the material, which is organic, and we've talked about the wood, the drywall, the cabinets. Once mold starts getting a dark, humid spot, which is, you were asking, how do you? Well, nobody can see behind the wall. The expression of it coming through the wall is just a telltale sign of where you need to look for the rest of it. When you open up the wall, it could go another 10 feet in every direction. You never know. And by law and Texas standards, you're supposed to remove 2 feet above and beyond from the last. So, for example, if I see mold right here, I got to go 2 feet in every direction just to take accountability of the spores that are growing. So that's one of the biggest challenges. You never know what you're getting into. And then all of a sudden, a 2-hour job could be a 6-hour job.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's part of the work that you're doing. And I want to wish you the best of luck today on the next job. And how could we reach out to you, Joey?
Please, by all means, give us a call at 512-661-4754. The W's, JSG Biocleanse Services.com. Last but not least, our Gmail, JSGBiocleanse@gmail.com.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you guys. And happy fall. Hopefully the temperatures drop for you there soon. You can work a little better. Bye. Thank you guys. Really good seeing you as always. And when the temperatures decrease, does the mold problem get better?
The work does lighten up, but once again, you never know until you open up walls, and there's always a water leak. People are always having plumbing. You yourself, you got basements that can break a pipe and no one knows, and all of a sudden a drip turns into a sport trap.
It's true. All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.